talking about the excellent way and how we spent, a few weeks talking about what love is, and it's about our motives, it's about our heart, and how we serve, what we say, how we say things. It all matters, and love is really the foundation of what God does and who God is. From 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 3, then Paul goes into verse 4. And from verse 4 to 8, Paul gives a marital handbook, a relational handbook, a manual, it's like a toolbox. If you want to have love in your relationships, this is what you'll do. Not just what you'll say, but what you do. And but last week we talked about, just catch up a little bit, when our values and God's values collide, and how, look, speaking in tongues and prophesying and gifts of faith and all these big ministries that we see and all that, I mean, that's all fine and good, but really God's interested in us loving one another, because love is what changes people's lives. You can hear a great sermon and walk away and really not be any different, but if somebody cares about you, that's what changes us, right? And so it's not a part of God's value system. They're only vehicles to bring His values to us. And what are God's values? Is love. God's values is for us to know Him and His love for us. And so God will use speaking, and He will use words, and He will use gifts of faith, and He will use miracles. And just like we talked about last week with Jesus, how Jesus performed all these miracles, but He didn't come to perform miracles. He came to express the heart of God to man, and He came to offer Himself as a sacrifice to show, to demonstrate. Romans 5:8, God demonstrates His love for us, and that while we were sinners, Christ died for us. He came to demonstrate the love of God. And so the miracles and the messages and the meals, they were all part of revealing who God was, not showing off for humanity. So it's the power of God is awesome, but the love of God is what drives everything with God. That's His value system. And so, but our problem as a church is we're so easily enamored with celebrities, but God cares about the integrity of the minister and the integrity of the ministry. So what's really victory for God is not that everybody sees a bunch of miracles or that people get these prophetic words and personal, prophecies or whatever. That's all fine and good. But what God wants is for lives to be changed by His love. And so that's victory for God, is when we serve one another out of love, because we want to see them touched by the Lord's love. And listen, everybody needs love. These three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And so we want love. Everybody wants love, and everybody needs love, because there's a health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritually. When we feel loved, all of those parts of us, our soul, our spirit, and even our body are affected in a positive way. But a lack of love will produce or escalate insecurities and fears, and it'll produce this low self-esteem in us. And anyone who has a low self-esteem, or when our self-esteem becomes low, we're much more apt or prone to self-destructive behavior. And then what happens then is you get this cycle. The more self-destructive things you do, then the less good you feel about yourself, and the less good that others feel about you. And so your insecurities and your fears, they escalate even more, and it's just an unhealthy cycle, very unhealthy cycle. But when we feel genuine love, and love starts to turn that around. When we really feel that somebody loves us, when we really think that they care for us, no matter what we've done, no matter what we do, no matter what we will or won't do for them, but when we really feel that we're loved, it'll start to enhance our sense of value. And when our sense of value is enhanced, then we begin to respect ourselves more. As we respect ourselves more and we love ourselves more, then we begin to respect and love others. And here's the thing, this is the cycle that this starts, because you reap what you sow. The more love and respect you show to others, the more love and respect you're going to receive from others, and the more love and respect you receive from others, the more your personal value system is going to rise, which will then cause more value and respect that you see in yourself, so you'll show it more. And it just starts this wonderful cycle of respecting and loving others. It's a very healthy cycle. But love is is what it's about. And that's why it's God, that's why love is God's value system. So love, what is it? When we sing about it, we hear about it, we read about it. I think we could quote movies so many movies have love is the story. I mean, basically in the movies, you have two premises for movies. You have revenge and you have love. So it's a love story or it's a vengeance story. The guys dig the vengeance stories and the girls dig the love stories. I like them both, okay? So, but that's what sells in Hollywood, is a good vengeance movie or a good love story. So, love is what it is. It is what it is. I hate that saying. You know, when people say, well, it is what it is. But that's the truth. Love is what it is. And here's the thing. It is something. That's what's important here. Paul wants us to know that love is something. And here's what's cool. Over the next, I don't even know how many weeks we're going to do this, because we're going to do 3 weeks on patience alone. This is the first of, I have 2 more messages on patience. And then, I know, you'd think, how can that guy who's so impatient say anything about patience? It's the gift of God. It's a miracle, right? I can preach on patience of all the things you shouldn't do and shouldn't be. So I just have to think, how do I act? Oh, yeah, so write that. Don't act like that. So we're going to spend 3 weeks on patience, because let me tell you, patience is so important in our relationships. And it's not an accident that Paul starts out in his description of love, verses 4 through 8, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. His description of love, or you could say it this way, not just a description of love, a definition of love. That Paul starts with patience as the first one. This isn't random, folks. He's just not just throwing stuff in the air. This is the very first for a reason, and it's that important. And the second one, love is kind, is so simple. I mean, I only need 2 messages on kindness. That's all we're going to do, just 2 messages on kindness. But we're going to be talking about love. And I'm telling you, if we listen to these messages and if we receive them in our heart, it'll revolutionize our marriages, our friendships, our businesses, our workplaces, our schools. If we began to be patient with people and kind with people and respectful of others, that's what love is. See, the fact that love is something means it's more than just a sentiment or feeling. It's an action. It's something to do. It's something that's done. That there's something tangible about love. It's not just words or sounds or but there's something that's actually visible, tangible. You can feel it, taste it, you can almost touch, And so love it's something. 1 John 3:18. John tells us, let us not love with words or tongue. Now, is John saying don't tell someone you love them? No, he's not saying that. But what he's saying is, given a choice, whether to say love or show love, that showing love is more important than saying love. Let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. And in truth. The truth part of it is according to the definitions and descriptions of what love is. So, there's a way about love, which is visible, as well as heard. Listen, it's important to say that you love your spouse or you love someone. It's important to say those words. But there's a way about it. There's an action to it, okay? So love is, but what really is it, okay? What is it? I mean, if you ask people to give a definition of love, there would be, a million. Here's Paul's definition of love. Love is patient. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient. What does it mean to be patient? He tells us right there. Bearing. Bearing. You're able to carry stuff. You're able to hold stuff. You're able to stand up under stuff. Really interesting word from the Greek is the word patience, okay? Patience in the Greek is the word macrothumio. Now, anybody want to guess? I don't need, we know. Macro means long, means large, means big. Macro. Micro, small, little. Macro, big. Thumio, thermos, thermostat, temperature. It literally means, macrothumio means long to boil. So Paul's saying that patience, macrothumio, love is macrothumio. Agape is macrothumio. It's long to boil. It doesn't heat up quick. It's defined as slow to anger. That's what patience is. It's slow to anger. It's long suffering. That means it can put up with a lot of garbage. It can put up with a lot of nonsense. It can put up with a lot of waiting. It can put up with a lot of not getting its way. It's tolerant endurance. Not just endurance, but tolerant endurance. That means that patience can tolerate for a long time what it doesn't like, what it's not happy with, what's not preferable for it. That's what patience can do. And then forbearance is kind of a smashing of two words, forgiveness and bearing. Just holding something in. Patience is opposed to haste. It's not fast. It doesn't need things chip, chop, chip. It's opposed to loud and boisterous or inflamed outbursts or irritability. That's what it's opposed to. That's what it's not. Patience is a state of mind that can bear long when oppressed. Sometimes get oppressed. And the word oppressed, one way to understand the word oppressed is being held down, being held back, being pushed down, being put down, provoked, being goaded. There are people out there in this world that just want to pick at you, right? And they just, does that hurt? 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 And after a while, you're just like, you want to take them on the couple shoot. And then have John Rossini twirl them and go, pull, and let them go. I'm not advocating that you shoot people with shotguns. So don't go out saying, our pastor wants us to kill people. I don't. But sometimes we feel that way, don't we? There are people on your job that just start nitpicking. And they just start, nothing major, nothing big. It's just a lot of it. And that's provoked. But patience is not easily provoked. It can bear long when it's been wronged. So there's a thing about patience that doesn't have to have vengeance to move on. Some people can't move on from a problem or an issue or a wrong until they've gotten some sort of vengeance or payback. And so they hold on to stuff until they get it right, until somebody makes it right. And even then, when they make it right, they still won't let go of it. That's not patience at all. Patience there's a certain calm or settled way about it. Folks, this is what we want. This is how we want to be in our marriages. This is how we want to be as parents. This is how we want to be as bosses or employees, as friends. Because you're going to have friends that are going to offend. You're going to have employees that aren't going to do what they said they would do. You're going to have bosses that are going to lie to you, are going to mislead you, they're going to rip you off at times. There's going to be people in this world that hurt you. Some intentionally, some unintentionally. But there's just this settled way about patience that's able to go, okay. They're not easily ruffled, and they're able to keep their emotions in check. That's what love is. Paul's saying love is not just a bunch of nice words. Love isn't just some neat song. Love isn't some feeling, I just feel so warm and fuzzy. That's all fine, but that's really not what love is. Can you keep your emotions in check? Can you bear long when things aren't going your way? When you're being provoked, can you keep your tongue in your mouth? That's what love is. And as a result, the patient, they're easy to be with. You want to be around patient people. They're safe. When you make a mistake, when you say something, everybody says the wrong thing, right? But boy, I tell you, there are people in this world that when you say the wrong thing, they got to correct it. They just got to jump and correct that right away. And the way that they correct sometimes is they make you feel stupid, don't they? And they make you feel like they embarrass you. There are some people that embarrass but a patient person isn't going to embarrass you. A patient person, if you say something stupid, isn't going to make a big deal about it. So patient people are free from the need to point out all our flaws and constantly correct or judge. That's patience, folks. That's the definition of patience. That's exactly what Paul was talking about that love is. So we apply that with our loved ones. Now, if we just took that description of patience, and we applied that into every area of our family life, how many of us think our families would become healthier? That the people in our family would, if we were safe because we were patient, that people in our family would feel safe to make a mistake and not be, ripped for it. That they could actually on accident knock a milk glass over and not pay a heavy price. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If you knew that you could knock something over on accident and not get ripped for it. See that Paul's saying that's what love is. It's patient. So love is patient. That's what it is. It is something, and what it is patient. Macrothumio, long to boil. Emotions in check. Safe. Non-judgmental. Tolerant. Enduring. As a father, Sarah read this passage this morning, as a father has compassion on her children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. You know why he has compassion? He knows how we're formed. I mean, how much does God really expect from us? I was talking with a friend that lives out of the state. I don't know if none of you even know him, but he went through a divorce. And he said that the church they were going to and all that, it just became just hell at home. Not good enough. Got to do better. Serve God a little harder. Serve God longer. Serve God better. More. Not good enough. The church they were at there was just so much pressure to be and you know how much I hate this, to be a good Christian. I just wish we could do away with the good, bad notion of Christianity. Well, I'm not a very good Christian. And some people say, I'm a bad Christian. Who told you were a bad Christian? Well, the church, I guess. Did God call you a bad Christian? Could you imagine God saying, you're a bad Christian? Could you imagine God? Could you imagine Jesus going, I died for you, but you're a bad Christian? Or how about this one? You're just not a very good Christian. Could you imagine God saying that to you? If God were to just appear in your car as you're driving and just look at you and go, so disappointed in you. I had such high hopes for you. I thought after all I did for you that you would at least worship me and serve me. So I'm disgusted with you. How many of you would want to have a dad like that? it's not who God is. It's not how God thinks. I know this because I read the scriptures. I know what God says about himself. And God says he's a compassionate God because he knows how we're formed. He remembers that he knows that we're just a bunch of dirtbags. You don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. If you were formed out of dust and now you're wearing clothes, you're a dirtbag. It's dirt in a bag. Some bags have zippers and some have buttons. Now, that's nicer than what Job says about us, because Job, in the book of Job, says we're worms and maggots. So dirtbag I'll take. The worm and maggot thing, that's not nice. There's not the expectations that God has on us are much lower than you would think. But his love for us is much higher than you would ever imagine. So he says, oh, I feel so bad I let God down. How could you let God down? You're not holding him up. He doesn't need any of us to hold him up. How high? I've got a little dachshund, okay? I love him, but he's so low on the food chain, it's not even, he doesn't know. But he is so low on the food chain. I was golfing on Wednesday at Eagle Ridge 2 weeks ago, and we were on the 14th fairway, and there was a bobcat on the fairway. And we've seen a bobcat on 13, 14, 15 in that area a number of times. But this bobcat was, it was full grown. It was pretty good size. They're not as big as a mountain lion. But I just thought of my dachshund and how that bobcat would just love my dachshund. But it wouldn't be that patient kind love. It would be the love as in, yummy, right? So my dachshund's pretty low on the food chain. He's not really worth anything or valuable in any way other than he's my pet. My expectations of Sniper are not that high. I know, Sniper. Okay, but my expectation, listen, how high should your expectations be of your pets? Not that high. We love them, but we don't expect. So, not that we're God's pets, but how high should his expectations be of us? When he's the creator of the universe, when he calls the stars by name, when he spans the heavens with his hand, when the nations are about to drop in the bucket to him, and he holds all the waters of the earth in the hollow of his hand, how much does he expect from us, really? So get the expectation stuff out of your life and just love God and be grateful to God. Now, that's something every one of us can do. Whether you're a good Christian or a bad Christian, you can be a grateful Christian. God has compassion on us, and God loves us because he's chosen to. Not because we do things for him that make him feel good or that prop him up or that win the battle against the devil. He's done all that. He came, John tells us in 1 John chapter 3, he came to destroy the devil's works. That's what he does. See, a key to patience is understanding. That's why God understands us. That's why he's so patient with us. He understands us. He knows how we're formed. He was there. He knit me together in my mother's womb, and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, but I'm flawed. I'm flawed. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, but I'm flawed, and God knows it. That's why Jesus came to die on the cross, is because I'm flawed. And even if I don't want to be flawed, and I try my hardest, I'm still flawed. I could be sitting in a restaurant. I do. Sitting in a restaurant, working on a message on patience, getting irritated because the server won't bring coffee fast enough. So I'm working on patience, but not being patient about it. That's how flawed we are. But see, the better we understand a person's situation or struggles, and this is why understanding is crucial to patience. What is it? What is it? It's patience. Patience is an understanding. And see, the more understanding you have of someone else's situation, struggles, their problems, their issues, their weaknesses, the more empathy that you have. See, and that's where God, as a father has compassion, the word compassion isn't empathy. You feel for someone else. You feel, you can put yourself in their shoes. How can we increase our understanding or empathy? First, take a little bit more time before responding. Just take a little bit more time, because when your kids come home from school, they may have just walked through 4 or 5.5 hours of absolute peer pressure hell. And they come home from school, and they have had to have been, in a sense, I had a friend that high school, and then we went to college for a little while together. And this guy, it's a great guy. I loved him, but here's the deal: if you were around him, you had to stay flexed, because at any moment he'd punch you. You remember Cato and the Pink Panther, Peter Sellers? Cato, he'd come. Cato was attacking him all the time. Well, this guy would just, guys, something about guys. We like to punch each other in the arms and stuff. Well, this guy would just want to punch you in the arm all the time. Well, you wanted to make sure you were flexed when he punched, because if you were unflexed, it would hurt more. And so imagine your kids, in a sense, at school have had to stay flexed all day long because of the barbs and the punches and the bullying and all the garbage that they have to go through. And they come home from school only to have parents go on them, and then can't understand why they don't respond. Parents, take a step back. Try and understand. Take a little bit more time. And I'll tell you, one of the best things as a parent, one of the best things that you have, weapons you have to be a good parent, or tool, I should say, to be a good parent is a good memory. Remember what it was like when you were 7 or 8 or 12 and your dad asked you for something, like asked you for a wrench, and just because it was your dad, you almost wet yourself, number one. And then number two, you look down at all the wrenches, and because it was your dad, your mind kind of flipped the switch, and you were handing him screwdrivers and then getting yelled at. Or you're holding the thermos and your dad says, don't drop. Boom. Because there are kids and there's sometimes they just need you to just take a little bit of time and understand and hold off on a judgment before. And as parents sometimes, and our kids are like, and then they're like, they don't know what to do, and then we think they're stupid. How can that be? They came from such a deep gene pool. We get that way with our spouses, too. They've had a long day at work, maybe a long drive. You don't know what's happened in their day, and they come home only to it's like, whoa, let me breathe. Just patience. There's just this settled, hey, we're going to get there. We're all going to get a coffee, okay? It's going to come. May not be right now, but you're going to get your cup. And by the looks of things, you're going to get more than you need, more than us around you want you to have, okay? So just taking a little bit of time, taking a deep breath, relaxing. That's what love is, and it's something that's played out over time. And also, then we can pray for discernment. First, just take a little bit more time before you start. And number two, just pray for some discernment. Because, man, if you can start to see into what's going on in somebody's life, maybe that person that's checking you out not checking you out like checking you out. I just thought that sounds kind of weird. I was just at the bar the other night, and someone was checking me out because I bought some groceries there. No, you're in the checkout stand at the grocery store and they're trying to scan the thing and you're like, come on, you know? Blacklist is starting in a few minutes. You know, maybe it's their first day. You know, see, discernment is able to see more than what's going on. What if you were yelling at somebody or getting impatient with somebody, and you just found out they got news that their mother had breast cancer? They just got the news. And so they weren't thinking that well. And they really weren't that focused. And you know what? At that moment, they really weren't a very good employee representing Nob Hill or Safeway. Because they just got some really bad news. And not that you would have any way of knowing that, but what if you prayed before you exploded or got irritated and let your rights be known? What if you were able to step back a little bit and say, Lord, what's going on here? And maybe God would flood you with some compassion for them. That something in their face doesn't look right. In that they've got some bad news. And they need some tenderness right now. It's just understanding better people around us. Because you know what? Every one of us here wants someone to give us a break, don't we? See, patience can kind of give someone a break. That's what patience is. Would you bow your heads? You'll never have, none of us will ever have any idea how patient God is with us. And we think we let him down and he's mad at us and he's disappointed with us and we're bad Christians or whatever. And he just loves you as his child. Imagine how much love you have for your children. I know don't they disappoint you? You've had them. You've wanted to take them back, but you haven't been able to. So our kids disappoint us. They make choices that we're embarrassed by. They do things that we wouldn't want them to do. This is the way it is. But you still love them. You'd still do anything for them. And your pets. I mean, you love them even though they do things on your carpet. And you allow that because you love them. I've made a lot of messes on God's carpet. And he still loves me. I can still jump in his lap and receive tenderness and mercy. God, give us discernment into the lives of those around us. Help us to see our spouses through your eyes. Help us to see our children through your eyes. That's really what discernment is, folks. Discernment is seeing things through God's lenses. It's been able, like if God had these cool shades that we could put on and go, oh my goodness, that's what's going on? That's what discernment is. You can pray for it and ask for it. God is patient with us, and I thank you, Lord, for your patience. We're not good Christians. We're not bad Christians. We're just your children. Thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name, amen.